project was inspired by this corner of my shop. As you see, I have one little hook for towels, but I've got towels and rags all over the place, so I wanted some towel bars. And I wanted a few because I have varying degrees of dirty towels. I mean, some are clean enough for your face, some probably should just be burned. But I went to the store and I was going to buy 3 towel bars, and they were like 10 bucks a piece. 10 bucks a piece. That's 30 bucks, so forget that. I'm going to make my own. I thought, I got the material, I might as well make it myself. And figured I could probably get 3 cranked out in about 30 hours, so that's like $1 an hour. That's like making money instead of spending it. I thought it would be kind of neat to have a curve. I thought we could do, it's been a while since I've done anything bending wood, so I thought that would be kind of a nice deal. And this is the wood I'm going to make it out of. This is aromatic cedar. When I moved into this property about 18 years ago, there was a line of trees that were kind of crowded. They were just planted too close to each other, so I cut every other one out. And when I first cut into the first one with the chainsaw, it just spit out pure red. I thought my chainsaw was leaking oil or something. It was the color of, like that maroon chainsaw oil. But it wasn't. It was aromatic cedar. And this is, when you first cut into this stuff, it turns like bright red. It's really spectacular. And it smells. It's aromatic cedar. So it's the stuff that you would find chips of it in hamster cages or animal bedding. But it's really nice. It's kind of hard to work with. As you can see, there's not a lot of straight grains. So we'll have to find some straight grains to bend for the bar part. And then I'll just cut out some shapes for the back, the wall mounting part. But I think it'll turn out pretty nice. So let's get started. First thing to do, we got to start planing. Okay, I planed down the wood, and the next step is to cut these strips that are going to be the bars for the towel bar. And that sounds simple, but I haven't bent a lot of wood, but one thing I do know is you can't just cut any old piece and bend it. Number one, it's got to be air dried. It can't be out of the store kiln dried piece of wood. Number two, you have to follow the grain as much as possible. I mean, the true woodworking gurus will actually take a piece of wood and split it so they follow the grain just, as much as possible, and then use that wood to bend after they cut it to size. What I did is I just tried to find along as straight as piece as I could and try to follow that grain, cut pieces that follow the grain, and try to avoid as many knots as possible. And with this aromatic cedar, it's not that easy. So that was step one. So I've got, what do I got? 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 1 extra. Actually, I have 2 extra. One's not right here. So we'll see what happens. All right, the next step is I need to make a template or a jig that I could bend the wood around. And it's pretty simple. All I did was take a 2x6 and round off the edge, figure out how long I wanted it,
round off the edge, put it down to, you know, I didn't have any plywood handy, so I just strapped it to, or screwed it to some melamine. These holes are to hold the wood in place. So what you do is you stick it in there and you slap this hole in there, tap it down, and then you take one of these guys and a little wedge, and you wedge that in there, and that holds it in place. And then you bend it around, you stick another peg in there and wedge it. You bend it around, stick another peg in there and wedge it. You got to be prepared and do all this at the same. You know, you got to do it fast because it warms up or it cools off and it won't bend. So you got to have everything prepared. Come out here and get ready to go to town. But as you can see, it's just a simple, very simple jig. It only took maybe an hour, I guess, to make it. I cut the rounds on a bandsaw and drilled these with Forstner bits. Cut these down. I rounded off the edges so these pegs will go in a little bit better. Otherwise, that's it. Very simple. After finishing the template or jig, the next thing was to build a simple box where you stick the wood in, the strips of wood in to be steamed. And it's just made out of pine, 1x6s, with a little door at the end and a latch to keep it shut. I drilled a hole, I took off the top so you can see. I drilled a hole where the steam's going to go in, and I have some dowels inside of there where so the wood can sit on and get steamed from all directions. And then on the bottom, so the steam's coming in on the top on this side, so I drilled a hole here and a smaller hole here so the steam can travel through and down and out, so the whole thing should fill with steam. And that's it. Very simple. It took me, and you know, these dowels are kind of fussy. I could have probably just set them on skinny blocks or something. I didn't use glue because I thought the glue would come apart, so I just screwed it together. And it can have holes in it. It doesn't matter. Steam, I mean, it's going to fill up. So, yeah, probably. If I didn't mess with the dowels, the whole thing maybe would have taken me an hour. Probably not even that long. So that's it. I'll throw it back together and ready to do some steaming, methinks. Okay, I think we got her up to steam, or up to heat. I'm just using a steamer it's kind of an all-purpose steamer for cleaning tiles and clothes and removing wallpaper, that sort of thing. So I'm gonna stick the stick in there, lock it up. I've got it set at about, I figured out earlier that this thing can go for about 40 minutes on medium, so that's what I'm going to do. I got it on medium. We're going to go about 40 minutes. And put it in the top hole. Put the trigger lock on it and set my phone timer for 45 minutes and come back and cross our fingers. Come on, baby, come on, baby, come on, baby. Go. Come on, baby, come on, baby. All right, come on, baby, come on, baby. Come on, baby, come on, baby. Hey! Woohoo! All right, let's see what we got here. Hey, look at that. It's a little off, but that'll pull back into place once it's attached. Nice. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Oh, split. Nope. All right. I had one success. And then I had this. And then there was this. And then this. And then this. So, they say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, I'm mostly not insane, so I'm going to do something different. For starters, this one worked and it went well. I think what the problem is this wood has just so many inconsistency, and it took a long time just to find a few pieces that had straight grain. And without straight grain, with knots, that's where it starts breaking. So I'm going to try bending some oak instead. It wasn't the exact look I was looking for, but I think I might stain these a darker color if I do that, if they work. So I'm going to use oak, and then I've got this steamer. I think it was getting hot enough, but I'm going to plug this hole completely and maybe partially plug this hole just to keep possibly hotter in there. But that's the plan, so we'll see what happens. As an additional insurance policy, I decided to soak these strips overnight. So what I did is I took a piece of PVC, put a cap on the end of it. I just got it sitting in my sink and made this simple little thing to keep them submerged. Just hacked out a little piece and put that down in there so it stays underwater. Hook that on like so. And I just pulled that other one out, and it seems like I could have almost bent it right there. So I know this is going to work. Alright, I've got 3 mostly successful bends. Now I have to sand them. I borrowed this from work. It's a rigid sander. It's kind of a combination drum and belt sander. And this thing goes up and down. It's actually pretty slick. I've never used it before, but we're going to give it a shot. And you could actually take this belt off and replace it with just a drum. Looks slick. We'll see how it works. All right, let's get sanding. All right. So while I'm waiting, I probably should have made a couple more of those templates. They weren't that hard to make, and I got to wait at least a day. I check it with a moisture meter to see if these, because you want to let it dry completely before you pull them off. I know some guys make them out of plywood, and I probably should have done that, and they throw them in the oven for a couple hours, and that speeds up the process, but not a big deal. So next step, I was going to make 3 individual, 1, 2, 3, 3 individual things, towel bars. But I decided to make one big long one and have 3 just on this board. So we'd have one there, and one there, basically. So what I did is I kind of determined my straight line here just by average because the board's all over the place. So I determined a straight line, I took some square lines off of that, and I made this setup for a router. It's just basically some scrap plywood. I shoved in a dado bit, I think it's called a dado bit, and then this will ride in here. And I'll put this over this like this. I didn't need one this long, but I thought, well, if I'm making one, I might as well hang it on the wall and probably come in handy some other time. So that's it, pretty easy. Just line up the lines, clamp it down, and do your thing. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I think I'm going to do it outside. My good router just died, so this is kind of my backup, and it doesn't have a dust collection port. And I'm not sure that would work anyway with these rails on. So I'm gonna do it outside because routering, as you probably know, is a messy deal and stuff gets all over the place. So let's go do it. I've got one more to do out there. One more is cooking right now, so I'm going to put a little finish on this. This is the back side. If you noticed, I really love this grain. The other side is pretty just plain white, which will make the shelves or the bars pop a little more, but when I finish this, you'll see how red it gets. It's actually pretty amazing. And I kind of wish the front looked like that, but it doesn't. And after a while anyway, I just use the Minwax fast drying polyurethane clear satin. After it dries, it kind of turns, the red kind of turns brown and the wood turns a little bit yellow, but it still looks cool, but not, it looks amazing when you first get that first coat on there. So, and I filled these little strips in. So these are the dados in the back, and I don't want to get finish in there because I want the wood glue to stick wood on wood. So I just filled these, kind of plugged in with some of the extra strips that I had. I sanded with, what did I sand with? Started with an 80, and then I went to a 120 because I didn't have a 100. Otherwise I would have went maybe not. A lot of times I just go 80 to 120. I don't do a lot of stuff that just needs to have a high polish on it. This stuff included. Okay, I got them all sanded. I taped up. I'm going to finish them now. Put a couple coats on, and then assemble it, and then put maybe a coat or two more on. I taped the ends because I want that to be, I don't want to get finish on that, so when I glue it together, it'll stick to the raw wood. Yeah, and there we go. My second favorite job, finishing. No, I'm kidding. Finishing and sanding, not my favorite. But I do like the way this turned out. I thought it was redwood, but it's actually, or red oak, but it's actually white oak. It's a little more gray. I kind of like it. I think it'll look great. I know it'll look great. I'm going to brush on the first coat or two, and then the last, I like to sand it in the last, because this is kind of a finicky surface, not finicky, but not flat. I like to brush the first one on a little thick, maybe the second one, but then the last one or two or three, I like to use the poly spray in a can. So I can get a nice, not a lot of drips and runs and that sort of thing. Then, all that's left is assembly. Okay, now the fun part, assembly, which I like. That's my favorite part. I love designing. Designing is fun too, but I like assembly. So what happens, you notice that these things were designed to touch. Somehow I screwed up the jig, and these things got short. They're like 2 inches from touching. So I really didn't want to do the whole thing over again. I don't know where my math went wrong, but every project I do has at least one pretty good solid mistake, which I'm learning to embrace instead of stress over. So I cut these two little 2-inch blocks to fill in there, just so I actually kind of have a guide so they're all the same. I centered them, so I'm going to put these blocks in first. And the other thing that happened was when I switched to this stock, this white oak, instead of the aromatic cedar. Aromatic cedar is a little bit wider, so there's a little play in these. There's a little play in the those dados. So I'm kind of a regular wood glue guy, but I'm going to use a small strip of the polyurethane, which expands and it'll fill that gap in there and keep it stable. Hopefully, it should be enough to keep it sturdy. I'm not climbing up these things. I'm just putting towels on them, but they still got to be somewhat sturdy. I put this tape here because there is thin spots on the back I don't want to staple through, which doesn't leave me a lot of room to staple here. So I'm going to clamp it. So I don't want, with that expanding glue, I don't want to push it out of place. So when I tack it all down, I'll come back and clamp them all in place. Put a little wax paper so it doesn't stick to the glue, the clamping blocks. And that's about it. So glue one, tack it in place, glue another, tack it in place, glue another, tack it in place, come back with the blocks. Hopefully it'll work. See what happens. And I've got this guy with some 3/4 inch brads in it. And the brads are really just kind of hold it in place before the clamping, really. So I'm going to start with I pulled all the clamps and I think we got a success. I got to do some sanding, which I knew I would. But I think it'll be pretty slick. Yeah, this is the top with that knot right there. They seem pretty darn sturdy. As long as nobody climbs up them, we should be good. Little sanding and mounting, and yeah, we're on the home stretch. There you have it. The towel rack is fini. I hung it on the wall with 3 screws. I was going to put some decorative black, kind of commercially industrial looking hardware, but I didn't have it, so I wanted to get this thing off of my bench and on the wall, so I just hung it. Whether they ever get changed out or not, we'll see. But had a little issues with the bending, as we know. Had to use the white oak instead of the
aromatic cedar, but I think it turned out all right. That live edge looks great against the wall, kind of pops when it's up against the wall. And it's, my wife's a little upset that I didn't build one for the inside, but guys gotta have priorities. Now I can become a towel hanging fool. Look at that. Nice.